Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad. Welcome to Liberated Sisters on the Closing the Gap Network. Thank you for tuning in with us and spread the word. We are speaking to Student Minister Abdul Muhammad, also known as Principal Abdul Muhammad. Our co-host today is Brother Sultan Muhammad, and we are speaking about a recent presentation, but also a fight. Our brother is in a battle, and thus so are we. Just to give you a little information about it, and before I bring Brother Sultan in, I hope I said I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad, right? And you're listening to Liberated Sisters. So, Brother Abdul Muhammad, he's a student minister in the Nation of Islam. Brother Abdul Muhammad is an educator, an award-winning educator, and really a miracle worker. He is the former principal of Lindblom in Chicago, Lindblom School in Chicago. And again, he's in a battle with Chicago Public Schools. And so just a little bit of information, and you can get this also at Justice for Muhammad, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. Officials from the Chicago Public Schools and the Chicago Teachers Union made covert attempts to stop the Lindblom Local School Council from selecting this decorated Black principal. Brother Abdul Muhammad has a 25-year track record. He is also a Muslim, a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the guidance and leadership, the beautiful, loving stewardship of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So look, when the council hired Brother Abdul Muhammad, despite interference, which he'll get more into this, and look, I'm telling you, buckle up, spread the word, because as our brother Sultan is going to delve into, this is not a local Chicago issue. This is not just citywide issue there, but this is national. This is a problem that we're facing across the world, really, wherever you find Black people. And so when he was hired, the district and that union came together. They manufactured a case against our brother. He was ultimately removed from Lindblom. Now, the case that they trumped up or developed against him was so hastily done, it was so recklessly done and assembled. It contains, get this, 82 logical fallacies. I'm sorry, false statements, provable false statements, 82 from witnesses whose own documented behavior demonstrates an alarming lack of competence and deeply questionable ethics. Each time I've seen Brother Abdul speak about this, each time I've seen him interview, and this latest presentation, which you must watch and please share with your families at media.noi.org. We'll also have links in the chat. It's going to blow your mind. To take us further into our presentation and to introduce our dear beloved brother is Brother Sultan Muhammad, our co-host. Brother Sultan, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
All right, how you doing, big brother?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. Brother Sultan, take us into our work tonight, and I'll be back.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to first open also in the name of Allah, God, the beneficent, the merciful. I bear witness there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger Messiah. And I like to greet you all in the language, our language of peace. Assalamu alaikum, which means, as Esau or Jesus said in the history, peace be unto you. And peace is in fact what we are looking for. And of course, without truth, without justice, there is no peace. We are really introducing, for some and knowledgeable of others, a young brother and student minister who has been exceptionally successful in the Chicago public school system, which means, of course, he has raised the mark, raised the level, and challenged the educational intent of not just Chicago, but public schools throughout America. And we will grow to see that there is a connection with this and education throughout the world when it comes to the original people, when it comes to Black and others throughout this earth. There is a very dangerous paradigm that has existed. And this, of course, this circumstance, which seems to be only Chicago public schools, really is a microcosm of the macrocosm. And we are going to look into that. And by God's help, we are going to see a faction of this, as will be demonstrated by our brother Abdul Muhammad. I have to say, I was always inspired by his lectures because he always seemed to be teaching students. And after hearing of his great success with our children in public schools, then we have something which also exposes why public schools have not been successful, in particular for the Black man and woman of America. I say that because the children is where, of course, the education begins. And well, I should say, actually, the education begins with the parents. And from that point, they introduce or should be introducing their children now to someone that can take them to the next level of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Uh, so I would like to bring before us our brother, fighter, revealer, whose circumstances it's really, really, and as you listen to it around the country, think about the private schools and even the public schools in particular that are in your area or your city. So if we bring on Brother Abdul Muhammad.
There he is. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Sister Charlene and Brother Sultan, for having me on your show today. It's definitely an honor to be here.
Praise
Yes,
be.
sir. I just wanted to reiterate a point for everyone to listen. Who is listening? This is problematic throughout the planet.
That's right.
Throughout the planet. And even though they have worked very hard to hold us back, and we'll talk about that and why. I just wanted to start like this, Brother Abdul, before they heal you, because there's a reason why we've gotten to the most depreciated schools and school systems for Black people in America. There's a history to it, and of all subjects, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, history best rewards our research. I wanted to ask Brother, well, let's just get started, Brother Abdul.
Yes, sir.
What, very briefly, is the situation, and then we're going to go into specifics.
Yes, sir.
What has happened?
Well, Brother Sultan, again, thank you for having me on your show. And I definitely would like to thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for being my teacher, as well as being my example. And thank all of your listeners for tuning in today. Brother Sultan, I have been, as you know, because I was your son's teacher, I've been an educator for 29 years. 4 of those years were at Muhammad University of Islam, and 25 of those years were in the Chicago public school system. And as you know, many of your listeners may know, I am and was an award-winning educator. After years of service, over 20 years of service, I was selected by the local school council at Lindblom High School, which is a Black school, majority Black school, in a Black neighborhood, Inglewood in Chicago, with a majority Black LSC. They selected me to be the principal of Lindblom. And when that happened, we can get into more specifics, but when that happened, there was an outcry from officials in Chicago public schools who were upset at the fact that the local school council at Lindblom selected a Muslim principal in the Nation of Islam, a Black male principal. And so those Chicago public school officials tried to put pressure on the local school council to change their decision. The local school council stood up against them and stood strong with their decision, moved forward. Chicago public schools relented then, but they worked from that day, which was June 15th of 2022. They worked to undermine everything that I did at Lindblom for the students, for the parents, as well as for the community. And they worked with 7 white teachers and 1 Black clerk We call them the Hateful Eight within the school. And those 8 Lynn Bloom staff members told over 83 lies to the Chicago Public Schools Law Department. And on March 31st, I was removed from the school. And of course, we've been fighting that ever since that removal took place. So I can get into more specifics, but that's just the outline of what happened. But we can definitely get into more details.
Yes, sir. I'd like to back into this. I want to back into it this way. Would you give for us some of the awards that you have received and the acknowledgement for your level of management?
Yes, sir.
School.
Well, brother, yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. Let me add, when you finish that point, how about we show some of the reel as well? But go ahead.
Well,
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead. Show the reel, and then I'll just come up behind it.
Okay, well,
Yes,
set
ma'am.
it up. I'm gonna go get it. Set it up.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So, just so your listeners know, I have been, as I said, 25 years in Chicago Public Schools. I was awarded the Teacher of the Year for the city of Chicago. That was in 2003. I was selected out of 1,100 teachers. There were 1,100 teachers that were up for the award, and out of that 1,100, of course, I was one of there were 24 finalists. Out of the 1,100, and then I was one of the winners of the Teacher of the Year award for that year. I've been featured in Who's Who Among American High School Teachers consecutively, as well as nominated for the Golden Apple. And I'll let Sister Charlene play the clip, and then we'll come back.
All right, here we go.
Career Academy High School. Abdul Muhammad is up for the highest honor. Thank you very much, Susan. This morning, we're taking you to the Academy Awards. Teachers tonight, Westinghouse Career Academy High School. Abdul Muhammad is up for the highest honor, Best Teacher. And student Darlisa Miles nominated him, and they both join us this morning. And thank you very much for being with us. Congratulations on being nominated. And Darlisa, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Let me start off with you, Darlisa. Why did you pick this wonderful teacher to be nominated for this wonderful award?
Well, I picked Mr. Muhammad for this award because he's a great teacher. Students learn Black history facts every day, all type of things. Queens of Africa, all type of things. Port, we go be gun, everything that we do. And Mr. Muhammad makes sure that his students learn, and he goes beyond by creating activities that get us interested into wanting to do things, making school fun and just motivate us.
That's awesome. Now, let me ask you this, Abdul. I mean, listening to her, I'm getting chills because, when you see a student motivated and excited about learning the way she is, and you're an educator, so that just must make you feel incredible. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. Well, it is an incredible feeling because, every year when I start the school year at Westinghouse, of course, the students, they come in and they look at me funny. But by the end of the year, the students, they enjoy my class. They love my class. I can't even teach.
Why do they look at you funny?
Because
you got the bow tie?
Well, the bow tie is part of it. I wear a suit every day. So, they're like, well, what is this, And by the end of this year, I'll have students coming back to visit me from years before, so I can hardly even teach my class for the students coming by my room to see how I'm doing. And I just bring excitement. I, try to bring creative activities for the students to enjoy.
Now, I understand you put a film together for Black History Month this year, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, every year there are students in the school who rap and make up their own songs. So I said, well, why don't you all make a song for Black History Month? So I took them to the studio. We recorded the song, and we did a music video for the song, and we showed the video to the students at Westinghouse, and they enjoyed it. We did that for 2 consecutive years. So now we have 3 songs that we've done total for Black History Month and 2 music videos that we've done.
The book that I'm going to recommend for you.
Abdul Muhammad teaches world history to 138 freshmen at Westinghouse High School. While he covers the Renaissance, the Reformation, and both world wars, Muhammad adds at least one Black history fact every day.
History books that we have is mainly from a Eurocentric perspective, and the students, they don't see themselves in the history books. So they're growing up in their teenage years wondering, well, what do we ever do? What do we ever accomplish in history? So at the beginning of class, I give them things that they didn't know that Black people did.
Muhammad added Black history facts to his lessons after previous students said they wished they learned more about their heritage.
So I was like, man, that's like an insult. If I'm a history teacher, I'm Black and I'm not, and they're telling me that they want to learn enough about Black history. So that's what inspired me to do the Black History Fact, which I do every day.
Muhammad also helps students explore their talents as well as their heritage outside of class by creating rap videos celebrating Black History Month.
I just brought them back to the roots of rap music and told them, well, make a rap about Black History Month. Since they could rap and they could do it well, then make one about Black History Month and we'll do a video.
That they did, and Muhammad even made an appearance. Muhammad's contributions were recognized with the Suave Performance Plus Award. He was one of 6 high school teachers honored for service to students beyond the classroom. The Suave Performance Plus Award is the only award program in which students from the city's 93 public high schools nominate, judge, and select the award winner. Students at Westinghouse High School say Mr. Muhammad got the recognition he deserves.
He make learning fun, because usually I don't do good in world studies, but he make me look forward to coming to class.
Because he is a good teacher. He makes sure the students learn, and he teach us about our heritage and all that, all the good stuff.
Suave rewarded Muhammad.
Now, when I look at something like that, I'm looking into the eyes and faces of the students. And each one of them, when they talk about you, brother, they have this beautiful smile of love in their faces.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that could be a part of what the problem is?
Oh, absolutely, Brother Sultan. That's absolutely what the problem is. When Prophet Muhammad was in Mecca, the Quraysh, who were the rulers of Mecca, as you know, because the Prophet had such great relationships with the young, with the old, with everybody, right? That the Quraysh were envious of his success with the people. So they tried to prevent people from talking to the Prophet and engaging with the Prophet, because they knew that once anybody talked to the Prophet, he was such a beautiful human being that they were going to fall in love with the Prophet. So it's like that with any of us who are trying to reflect Prophet Muhammad or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. When we reflect the love that we've been shown to our people, then our people can't help but fall back in love with us. So that absolutely, Brother Sultan, in every school that I've gone into, and I've done this for my entire adult life, the students in every school have fallen in love with me. And when those students fell in love with me, there were always those who were envious of the success that Allah blessed me to have with the students. And their envy led them to, try to do things against me. But in every instance, Allah blessed me to overcome the envier and their envy. So all praise is due to Allah, and be successful at educating our children. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan referred to the public school system as the killing fields, right? And the public school system is absolutely that, because the public school system is destroying the minds of Black children. And I always use the example. See, so we're taught that there's a law of cause and effect, right? And that if the effect is real, then the cause is just as real. So when we see the effect of a rise in crime, and we see the effect of our young people engaged in a lifestyle that is destructive, when we see that's the effect, but we have to ask the question, what is the cause? When we see our brothers sagging their pants the way that they do, and we see our sisters wearing bonnets outside with pajamas, we want to criticize them. We want to criticize the effect. But what we're not looking at is the cause of that effect. And so what did the most honorable Elijah Muhammad say? He said, we have to go to the root today to prove that the all-wise best knower is with us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. So what is the root of the effect that we see? Well, we know that the Bible says that we're born in sin and shaped in iniquity. Meaning we were born in a world that was already doing evil before we got here. And then when we got in the world, the institutions of the world shaped us in the way that we think. So our people who are sagging their pants or wearing bonnets or wearing pajamas or involved in gang violence or whatever. That is the effect. And the cause is because they went to the public school system and got miseducated. And we can use the example of Brother Malcolm X when he was in 8th grade and his teacher told him, he asked his teacher, well, his teacher asked him, pardon me, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? And Malcolm said that he wanted to be a lawyer. And his teacher didn't pour life into Malcolm and said, look, let me give you some books that will help you to be what you want to be. Let me point you in the right direction. Let me assist you in this noble goal because your people are suffering. They could use a good attorney. No, that white teacher didn't do that. What did the white teacher do? The white teacher put a needle in Malcolm's brain and said, you'll never be a lawyer. Your own people won't hire a black lawyer. And certainly white people won't hire a black lawyer, but you work well with your hands. You should be a carpenter. So he redirected him from something that would oppose white supremacy to something that is not a threat to white supremacy. Now, Brother Sultan, you know that the same thing happened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan when his teacher, her name was Mrs. Hurley, and he told her that he wanted to be a doctor. And it seemed like all the white teachers had the same playbook because Miss Hurley told the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, young Louis Walcott, oh, you'll never be a doctor. White people are not going to let you work on them, and neither will black people. But you play the violin so beautifully, Louis, right? So you can entertain white people, but you can't think that you could ever grow to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. That is a needle in the brain of the black child. So what happened to Malcolm? Malcolm dropped out of school and started running the streets. So the effect was Detroit Red. The effect was Dirty Red. The effect was a man robbing people's houses while they were asleep in the house. The effect was a man pimping women and selling dope. That was the effect. But what was the cause? The cause was that Malcolm's white teacher put a needle in his brain when he was in the 8th grade. So now we look at the effect, but the cause of that is that our people are being destroyed in the public school system of the enemy. And you may say, or your listeners may say, well, does this still go on in 2023? Absolutely. When your children come home, you ask them, baby, what you learned at school today? And what does my mama ain't learned nothing. You think your child is exaggerating, but your child is telling you the absolute truth because the teachers are not teaching in the public school system. So what are they saying? They're not coming out saying you're not going to amount to anything, but they're really doing the same thing that was done to Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
By not teaching, they're saying that you will never amount to anything. I know I took a long time with that answer.
No. I want to go somewhere with this because you're on a role that we need to pay attention to.
Yes, right. All right. That's right.
So here we are today. 90% of black children. I came up in Houston.
Yes, sir.
In the 50s.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just named myself. I just counted myself. But I came up, in the early 50s, and we had all black teachers. I went through junior high school and high school with all black teachers, and the education that I received, as I graduated in 1966.
Yes, sir.
With more than what I see graduates come out today.
That's right.
My question: do you think that there is a relationship? Well, first, there was a white teacher who told you something about the children who wanted to learn now. She complimented you on, you mentioned her, and then I'll ask my question. She complimented you on how the black students, since you have been there, now seem to want to learn.
Absolutely.
Would you give me that quickly?
Yes, sir. So what happened is when I was at a school on the West Side, a school that was neglected for years by Chicago Public Schools, Douglas High School. And when I got to Douglas High School, the school was falling apart. Everything that you could imagine was wrong with the school, was wrong with Douglas. And that's not to blame the people that were there. Again, like I said, this is a school that was neglected. It's in the Austin community. It's on the west side of Chicago. This is a very neglected area in the city of Chicago. And they did not have a principal that could go into Douglas and turn the school around. And Chicago Public Schools, when they assigned me to Douglas, because they thought that I was going to fail because nobody was able to succeed at Douglas. So they wanted to put me in a place where they thought that I would fail and the building would collapse on my head. And I got to Douglas and I was there for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I completely transformed the school by the grace of Allah. So the second year there, a white teacher, it was a male teacher, while I was there at the school, he pulled me over to the side and he said, Mr. Muhammad, before you got here, the students didn't care about their grades. But now that you're here, the students care about their grades. He said they used to ball up their report cards and throw them on the ground. But now that you're here, the students care about your grades. So what did I do that caused the students to care about their grades? See, everybody said, not everybody, but a lot of people say, oh, you can't teach these children. They don't want to learn. These children, it's this young generation, they're crazy. And everything that you're saying is 100% false. Our young people want to learn just as much as everybody else. All you have to do is raise the expectation. What I did for the students at Douglas is I raised the bar. I raised the expectation as the instructional leader. And when you raise the expectation, children are naturally going to rise to the expectation that you put in front of them. But if you have low expectations and no expectations, then guess what's going to happen? They're going to rise to the expectation that you put in front of them. If you're a parent, it's the same way. If you don't expect the room to be clean, then guess what? The room is not going to be clean. If you don't expect for them to brush their teeth and wash their face, then guess what? They're not going to brush their teeth and they're not going to wash their face. If you don't expect them to wash the dishes, then guess what? They're not going to wash the dishes. If you don't expect them to get up for prayer, then guess what? They're not going to get up for prayer. So the higher you raise the expectation, the child is going to meet the expectation. But if you have no expectations, then you have nothing for the child to reach. So you can, again, we're talking about cause and effect. You see the effect and you say, oh, these children don't want to learn. That's the effect. The question is, what is the cause? I disagree with everybody who says Black children don't want to learn. They're a hopeless generation. I've been dealing with Black children my entire adult life, and they want to learn just as much as everybody else. All we have to do is raise the expectation, and our kids will rise to the expectation that we raise.
That's right. Brother Sultan, if I may add, as you continue, one thing I like to the point that you raised for the question for Brother Abdul is, I love when you speak about how you started doing the Black History Fact of the Day. You polled the students, and one of your students told you what she wanted. And look at now where we are. But thank you for that. That presentation, I have it in the chat. It's at media.noi.org. But thank you. Go ahead, Brother Sultan.
Yes, ma'am. So I want to talk a little mathematics. We say Islam is mathematics, and mathematics is Islam. I think we may be, of course, the first in a long time, and I do mean a long time, who were taught that, because now that mathematics is to be used. So if we had a situation where with my teachers, which were all black,
right,
and the English composition, because I ended up challenging at Dillard before I was kicked out. I ended up challenging at Dillard one of the teachers, she was Jewish, who gave me a grade and had made all kind of marks regarding composition and regarding grammar, and gave me a C.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to see that teacher. And then I told her about who my high school English teacher was.
Right.
And then brought a book on composition and grammar to show her where I was correct and she was wrong. And I realized that what it was, she did not like what I said.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got that grade. Now, this is the kind of thing that they can do now in kindergarten.
Right, absolutely.
They can read you in kindergarten and know when you're going to become a problem.
Absolutely.
So my question is, if we take the situation with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and also Brother Malcolm. And then we multiply that, of course, by millions of our brilliant students throughout. What is the chance then when 90% of those who are listening, 90% of the teachers of your Black children are white?
So, Brother Sultan, that's a great question. And this is a trend. So here's the thing, brother. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad is so wise and so ahead of his time that he gave us a solution already. So we have the solution. We don't want to apply the solution that he gave, and the solution that he gave is independent education. So he gave that solution. We don't want to apply that. So now what has happened is, and this has happened over time, right? What has happened is that you had Black teachers in the 50s, but we were in a situation then where most of us were forced to go to a school that was separate from white people. But now the difference is that the educators that in those schools, the educators in the schools that you went to, they walked in the door with a mindset that what I'm teaching these Black children is going to lift a whole race of people. That's the mindset like of a Booker T. Washington, that we need this education, and this education is going to lift the next generation so they can take the whole race further. So the teacher walked in not for a job, but for a mission, right?
Yes.
The parent sent them not just for reading, writing, and arithmetic. They sent them for that, but the parent was also a part of that mission, and the community was a part of that mission, right? So all of those institutions, the family, the community, the school, the church, all of those institutions have faced an onslaught and have been destroyed. So now we have children in a situation where they're going to school, like you said, and 90% of the teachers are white. Here in Chicago, they had a concerted effort to systematically fire Black teachers. Now, Brother Sultan and Sister Charlene, the Chicago public schools was from 30%, 35% Black right now. But when they started this systematic removal of Black teachers, the student population was 45 to 50% Black, and the teacher population was 50% Black. Now, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is an actual fact. And Chicago Public Schools was sued a couple of years ago for the systematic firing of Black teachers. This is just a fact. So now, but the question is, right? We're taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that the greatest question that you can ask is the question why. Why would Chicago Public Schools and other districts, it's not just Chicago, why would Chicago Public Schools and other school districts work to systematically remove Black teachers from the classroom and now systematically remove Black principals from the school? It is because they want to have access to the greatest thing that they can have access to. And the greatest thing that they can have access to is not your bank account.
That's right.
The greatest thing they can have access to is not your email.
That's right.
The greatest thing that they can have access to is not your 401k. It's not the greatest thing. The greatest thing they can have access to is not your automobile.
That's right.
The greatest thing that they can have access to is not your house. The greatest thing that they can have access to is the minds of your children.
Yes, sir.
Because they know if they control the minds of your children, then they control the future. What do white people see on the horizon? They see the children are no longer going to church. The children are no longer, they don't watch mainstream media. Man, please. They don't watch the news, right? So they don't go to church. They don't watch the news. So the institutions that used to shape the minds of children are no longer shaping the minds of children. And the children, even though they are somewhat disconnected from a revolutionary leader, somewhat, They have the spirit of Joshua. And all it takes is a little from the revolutionary leader, and I'm talking about the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and they got it. So what would the enemy do if he sees the children rising all over the country, all over the world? Young people are rising up. So what would the enemy do to prevent that rise? What have they always done? They brought in heroin in the 70s. They brought in crack in the 80s. They did everything they could do to prevent. They passed all of these harsh Jim Crow laws. Everything. So the enemy has never stopped since we were brought in slavery in 1555. They have never stopped putting things in place to prevent the rise of our people. Now that's a historical fact. They've assassinated our leaders. They destroyed our organizations. They developed COINTELPRO. They've done everything within their power to prevent the rise of our people. So if they did all of that, you mean they wouldn't fire black teachers to prevent the rise? Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Yes, sir.
For them to do.
And we're going to talk about other principles other than yourself. May I?
Absolutely.
I just want to say, if I can, we're not talking to the students of Muhammad University. Our concern is all of our children.
All of them.
Because the overwhelming 95% of our children are now locked in schools that will not properly educate them.
That's right.
And if the 90% has more than likely been an enemy historically,
right,
what could we expect from our children? What can we expect from the educational systems that most of our children are in?
And let me just say this real quick. So what happens, brothers and sisters, what you have to understand is that when white people take over the education of black children, they become the filter for what black children learn, right? Yes. So you sit at home with your children, Kareem and Malik and Kalila, right? And they're coming home telling you what their pronouns are. And you're saying, man, where you get that from? Nah, that don't make no sense. They're coming home telling you what they learned at school, right? But now, where's the see, we don't have power over that because we don't have black people in place to be a filter for what we know that the black community needs and wants. So white people become the filter for what your children receive. Let me give you an example. When our brother, what is his name? Not Harold Washington, Al Sharpton was running for president. Brother Cedric, who at that time had a website, our brother Cedric had a website called blackelectorate.com. He wrote an article because he was trying to get some information to Al Sharpton to help him with his economic policy. And Brother Cedric noticed that around Al Sharpton were nothing but white people. So in order for a black person to get information to a black candidate to help black people, that information had to go through a white filter, and the white filter would determine whether or not we're going to give this information to Al Sharpton or make this a policy program. And all of our politicians and most of our entertainers, that is exactly how it is. They are the talent, but around that talent are white people, and they become filters for what the talent gets. Okay, so now you see that in a case of a rapper or a singer or whatever, or a politician. But the same thing is true for your children. So now let me give you an example that you can relate to. There's a brother in Chicago who has a program called Hip Hop Detox. His name is Brother Enoch. And I've been working with Brother Enoch in Chicago since 2003, 2004. We've been working in various schools for a long time. And Brother Enoch has an outstanding program for black children. And Brother Enoch, his son went to Limblom before I got there. And every time Brother Enoch went to try to bring his program to the students of Limblom, he had to go to the white principal, and the white principal had to make a decision of whether this black man's program was good for black students at Limblom. And every time Brother Enoch went to the white principal to share with him about this program, Hip Hop Detox, he was always turned down. So now you know what happened when I became the principal of Lynn Bloom, right? Because I'm not trying to filter out somebody that can bring some knowledge and understanding and guidance to Black children. So Brother Enoch's first time going to Lynn Bloom to bring this dynamic program to Black children is when I was the principal. That's the benefit of you having a Black principal over Black children, because the white principal and white teachers are going to filter out what they based on what they want. They're going to filter out what your children learn or don't learn. So, and again, I'll just say this real quick because it ties into this point. When I first got to Lynn Bloom, y'all got to understand, I need everybody listening to understand, this is a Black school. The school is 75% Black. The school is in Inglewood. That's where Lil Herb and all these rappers are from. They're from Inglewood. It's a Black neighborhood in Chicago. And there's a Black LSC that elected me to be the principal. And when I got to the school, I had a parent that came to me and said, Mr. Muhammad, we never, I'm not going to say never. She said, we don't have Black History Month programs here at the school for the students. Now, how is this even possible, brothers and sisters? How is it possible that at a Black school in a Black neighborhood with a Black LSC, I have a Black parent coming to me and telling me that they don't even have Black History Month programs? So I made a promise to that parent that we were going to have not just a program, but we're going to do many things for Black History Month. And you know, I kept my promise. And that parent was extremely excited. But this is the benefit of having Black educators over Black children. And as you said, brother, the vast majority of our children are in the public schools, and we have to do something to get access to the minds of our greatest resource, which is our children.
Brother Sultan, Brother Abdul, let me display the flyer as you both continue on.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I think maybe in about 14 minutes, we can go to some of the questions that we have in common.
Absolutely.
I love, to your point, what you're saying. I love how in the presentation, A Call for Truth and Justice, how you shared that Hamilton, the stage play, only
Right.
left twice. And because of your hard effort, children who were, you know, in prison,
Incarcerated, right?
that's right, were incarcerated, were able to see that. But continue on, and I would like to display the
we can move to that, you know, right away.
to the which one?
The school that he taught. Did you have something?
I'll get it. I'll get it, and I'll make you aware when I have it. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So I want to. I had written down battle to reveal the de-education of Black children.
Yes.
And of course, the fear. I want to for just a moment, go down a list here of just some of the inventions by Blacks in history who have not had the advantage of the same education as our privileged, or as the privileged white children, because all white children do not get the privileged education.
Right.
And they could even do better. But let's take a look at some of those and what has been invented and what we come up with. Potato chips, gas masks, protective mailbox, blood bank, improved ironing board, home security system, free light, traffic light, refrigerated trucks, as a matter of fact, one of the brother who invented the refrigerated trucks has a nephew in the nation.
Okay. Praise be to Allah.
Automatic elevator doors, electric microphone, color IBM, PC monitor, and gigahertz chip, super soaker, tissue holder, peanut butter, laser foco, automatic gear shift, clothes dryer, dustpan, folding chair, golf tees, ice cream scooper, lawnmower, lawn sprinkler, modern toilet, mop, reversible baby stroller, well, I don't know what that is. I don't think it means the same. Logomania, paper, chess, alphabet, medicine, serving tray walker, airplane propeller, biscuit, helicopter. I remember once it was a show like 60 Minutes. Now I'm naming these for a reason. A show like 60 Minutes. And they were going to show where the inventor of the turbo engine was. I think it was Channel 7. This is many years ago. And so the show is going on. They go into the L's in New York. But, they're taking us to the person who invented the turbo engine.
Right.
Then they go down the stairs, cameras follow them. Then they go around and up under the stairs. There's a black man living under there. Living under the L. This was the brother who invented the turbo engine. So in science and math, we can find, especially when they find us in those subjects, they pay very close attention to us. They do not want to let us get away. They want to make sure that once you're used up, you are completely used up.
That's right.
But when we take a look at all of these car coupler, rotary engine, letterbox, stainless pads, airplane propeller, I mentioned that one, biscuit cutter, look at all of the radiation detector, paints. I don't think there has really been an independent invention in America. And that the reason that, of course, America moved ahead of all the other older European countries is because their use of the black man and woman, not only as slaves, but as doctors, architects, and others, and builders. A history that we know nothing about, but they know our history and know what we have done in spite or despite what has been done to keep us away from learning.
That's right.
So can we say that it appears that there's a fear is they would never allow our children to have an equal education?
That's right. Brother Sultan, the education has always been an equalizer. And this is why the enemy has always wanted to control the education of black children. Because if they receive the same education that, as you said, that a certain level of or upper class white people receive, then they would not be able to continue to rule. Listen to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, brothers and sisters, in the book, Torchlight for America. He coined a phrase. He said, "He who gives you the diameter of your knowledge controls for you the circumference of your activity." And so this is real simple. Like, this is a test to see whether you really have knowledge. The smaller the diameter, the smaller the circumference. So the less knowledge you have, the less activity you have. The greater the diameter, then we know the greater the circumference. So the more knowledge you have, the more activity you will have. So you don't have to, because we like to argue as black people sometimes about how much knowledge we got, right? It's not even an argument. All you have to do to see who has the knowledge is look at the activity. The greater the activity, the greater the knowledge. So you can have all these titles that you put on yourself, right? Grand potentate of whatever, and talk about how you got these degrees of knowledge from Egypt and the Medu Neter and everything else. You can talk all of that you want to talk, right? All we have to do is look at the activity, and the activity will determine if you have the knowledge. So now the enemy does not want us to have the same knowledge as him, because or a superior knowledge, because we don't need the same knowledge. We need a superior knowledge, because he knows that it is our time to rule, and you can only rule when you have knowledge. This is why the Bible says that the devil has come down with great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. So, brothers and sisters, the fight that we're in is not a fight, a physical fight, but the fight that we're in is the greatest fight that we can be involved in, and it is the fight for the minds of our children. because our children all across the country are being miseducated in the public school systems. And when you have an educator like myself that is actually in the schools giving the students what they need of the knowledge of self and other things, there has always been an attack on educators in the public school system giving Black children what they need to rise. And that's exactly what I've done for the last 25 years.
Transformative work.
Mhm.
Brother Sultan, transformative work, right? We have the clip ready when you're ready, Brother Sultan. Just let me know.
Go right ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Done, brothers and sisters, for the last 25 years. The transformative work that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been asking us to do. While I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, brothers and sisters, I have to tell you this. I received an email one day, and in that email, it said that 1,900 students in the city of Chicago went to go see this play called Hamilton. Now, I don't know if you've ever saw the play or have ever seen the play Hamilton. It's a magnificent play. It's a great stage play. It's one of the greatest stage plays that has ever been written, and was on Broadway, a smash hit on Broadway. So now, when I got that email, I felt like my students are incarcerated. I'm incarcerated with them. When I came to the facility, I had to walk through 2 line scans just to get in the facility. I had to sit in the windowless classrooms with the students just like them. I had to see our brothers. The facility is 85% Black boys. And I had to see our brothers in this facility where they made them walk down the
Okay. Okay, brother.
We can go right to Brother Abdul. He's right there.
Yeah. So
would you give us?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what I was saying in that particular clip, the school that I was at is inside of the juvenile detention center. My first day there, I noticed, and I was told, but I'm looking around, and 85% of the residents or the students are Black boys, right? It's about 14% Hispanic. And they made them walk with their hands in their pockets so they wouldn't fight each other. They had, anytime you had the residents, there were always 2 security guards with them at all times. There were always 2 security guards with them in the classroom, 2 standing outside the classroom, as well as security sprinkled through the hallway. So this is where I was every day with all the young people in Chicago, 17 or under, that were locked up. And I reached out to the producer. Her name was Caitlin Fine. She was the Chicago producer of Hamilton. And I sent her an email and I asked her if she would bring the Hamilton play to Nancy B. Jefferson, which is the school inside of the juvenile detention center. Now, brothers and sisters, I don't know if you all have seen this play. You should go see it if you have not seen it. The play is absolutely phenomenal. Like, I'm a fan of hip hop. If you love hip hop, you're gonna love Hamilton, right?
It's true.
And so the play is absolutely phenomenal. It's just a magnificent work of art. And the thing that I didn't get a chance to say in the video is I emailed the producer. And anytime, like the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, anytime you want to do something in this old wicked world, there's always a test to see if you really want to do it. So I was no longer the principal at Limblom. The principal at Nancy B. Jefferson. I had moved on to Douglas. And I took my students from Douglas to go see Hamilton. And when I took my students from Douglas to go see Hamilton, because getting the play to Nancy B. Jefferson, we started that process, but then it fell off the rails, and then I went to another school. Brothers and sisters, when I saw that play, and it was so phenomenal, I said, I got to start this process all over again. So me reaching out to the producer, when I reached out to her, we had started the process. But then because I transitioned, the process completely collapsed. And when I saw the play and I saw how great it was, I said, I have to start this process all over again. So I reached back out to the producer of Hamilton and everybody at Nancy B. Jefferson. And we brought the play. It took us 2 years, but we did it. And we did it for the students, the most neglected, the most deprived, and the most at-risk students in the city of Chicago, the students at Nancy B. Jefferson, which they refer to it in Chicago as the Oddie homes. But these are the children, brothers and sisters. Allah blessed me to put in so much work, not in all the schools that I've been at, but at Nancy B. Jefferson as well, that if I walk into Nancy B. Jefferson right now, it's a school that's managed by Cook County because it's a part of the Juvenile Detention Center, right? It's managed by Cook County. CPS has the school, but the whole facility is run by Cook County. And because of the work that I did, that Allah blessed me to do when I was there, everybody, when I say everybody, Black, white, Asian, African, security guard, the head of the facility, and everybody in between, the judges, the lawyers, all of them, every last one of them has nothing but honor and respect for Abdul Muhammad because they saw the work that I did for the young people while I was at Nancy B. Jefferson. Let me give you an example. So, brothers and sisters, I told you that when I went in there, I talked to every brother. I did what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did when he was in the streets of New York. I shook every brother's hand every day. I left my office and talked to every brother in that facility. I went up in their cells and I talked to them in their cells. This was the first time that they could put the various gang members together, the BDs, the GDs, the Vice Lords, the Four Corner Hustlers, the Black Souls, the Latin Kings, the EBK. They couldn't put them together before. But when I was there, we were able to put them together and there would not be a confrontation between these brothers. Now, brothers and sisters, one day, because I like to do, at every school I've ever been at, I've gone above and beyond the call of duty. So I wanted to do a 5-on-5 basketball competition at Nancy B. Jefferson, right? Now, listen, brothers and sisters, we're talking about a jail school. And I said, I want to do a 5-on-5 basketball competition with everybody in the entire facility. So I talked to the brothers. I let them know. I said, look, this is what we're trying to do. We're going to do a 5-on-5 basketball competition on a Saturday, all day. Everybody's going to participate. Get your team together, and we getting trophies for the winning team. So now, brothers and sisters, I went there on a Saturday at, I think, 8 o'clock. And we played, because now listen, this wasn't one team against the other team. This is everybody in the entire facility. Everybody except the medical wing. Everybody. We brought the teams down. They played each other. The team that won, we did the brackets. They went on to the next. Right? We had another losing bracket where they could play each other and get back in. We ran the whole thing from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I was there the entire day with them, with every resident. They all came down. And we did not have a single fight that entire day. Now, it was some hard fouls on the basketball court, very hard. But we did not have a single fight that entire day because of the relationship that I built with those brothers. And again, what did I do? I said it already. I set the expectation. I let them know what I was trying to do, what we were trying to do, and how it was going to go. I raised the expectation, and every last one of those brothers and sisters met the expectation that we raised. We did that for the entire day and didn't have a single incident. We had pizza for them, everything. So now this is why to this very day, to this day, I haven't been working there in 7 or 8 years, but everybody on the Cook County side loves me to this day Now you would think, well, Brother Muhammad, why don't the people in CPS love you the way the people at Cook County? I can't say why. All I can say is I can assume that they hate black children because I can't say why they don't love me the same
Now,
way.
that was something else that you did there.
Yes, sir. That was something
You
else.
brought somebody there.
Ah,
You brought
brother,
a group there.
Brother Sultan, I did so many things at the Juvenile Detention Center every year. This is while I was there and when I left. Every year we would do what is called Adopt-a-Pod, right? They have this program called Adopt-a-Pod, where any organization can adopt a pod. A pod is like a cell block, right? So it's like 8 rooms to a cell, to a pod, right? So you adopt a pod. So you adopt these 8 people, right? 8 residents, and you bring them food. You know, this is during the Christmas season because, as you know, when people are incarcerated around the holidays, is they get sad, they get depressed, right? So this is something that the facility did to raise the spirit of the residents. So I said, look, I reached out to brothers and sisters in the nation, Sister Carmela, others, as well as the brothers and sisters, because I do a lot of community work as well. So as well as the brothers and sisters who I've been working with in the community. And every year, we didn't just adopt a pod. We didn't adopt 8 or 9. No, we adopted like 30 or 40 residents at the Juvenile Detention Center every year. Sister Carmela, as well as Jerk 48, which is in Chicago, it's a restaurant in Chicago who we partnered with. We brought food for them, right? We brought food for the residents from Sister Carmela's restaurant, as well as Jerk 48. We brought bean pies for them. Of course, they never had the bean pie before. And then with the brothers and sisters that I work with in the community, we brought gifts for them. Now, of course, they're incarcerated, so they can't take the gift. But they can give the gift to their brother or sister or mother, or if they have a child. We brought truckloads full of gifts for the brothers and sisters that are incarcerated at the Juvenile Detention Center. We did this every year.
But now, hold just 1 minute, please.
Yes, sir.
You did not finish telling us what happened with the musical.
Oh, I'm sorry, my brother. So, Brother Sultan, thank you. When we brought the Hamilton play to Nancy B. Jefferson, the cast came out and they performed the play for the residents. And everybody,
the actual cast.
There's, if you go to Nancy B. Jefferson, and the picture is in the presentation, but if you go to Nancy B. Jefferson, they have a display in the lobby with a huge Hamilton poster in a frame with different pictures of all the cast members. The cast members came out and did the play, or asked. They couldn't do the whole play because the play is hours long, right? But
in the prison facility?
In the prison facility, absolutely, yes, sir. And of course, they asked questions. The politicians came out. Everybody from Cook County, all of it, they were all there. And brothers and sisters, of course, when that event started, the brother who's over the facility, because they invited me, even though I was no longer there, they invited me. And when he started the program, the first thing he did was thank me because I was the one that reached out to the producer of Hamilton to bring the play. And after they performed, of course, and we ate and it was great. After they did that, the producer, her name is Caitlin Fine, pulled me over to the side and said, Mr. Muhammad, this play has only left the stage twice. Once when we took it to the White House for Michelle and Barack Obama. And the other time is when we brought it to the students of Nancy B. Jefferson. So
let me stop you right there. I want to stop
that
you
I've
right
done.
there.
Yes, sir.
I have to stop you right there. You went through, and from what we learned, this was 2 years after you started this mission.
Yes, sir.
And you were actually gone from that facility. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I wasn't even there anymore. That's right.
But you continued to work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I want to go back to a point, and that point is what we're talking about is when we have people who are really concerned about our children and where our children could be and where we could be if we control these situations.
That's right.
And we have to do what is necessary to control these situations. And what would it do? I want to just parenthetically, George Foreman is a friend of mine.
Yes, sir.
Friend of mine because I used to avoid him. And I would talk to him because George did just what he did, fight every day. He actually did that. When they made the movie, that part was true. So George was considered, a spastic child. He was considered, a dropout. He was considered, although he didn't, because you had to finish. In Houston, you had to finish. You're 20
Right.
years old, you're going to finish school. And so my brother, after he comes to the knowledge of himself, after he comes to power, after he comes to become a champion and all of this, and then he goes into business, look at how intelligent the man was.
Right.
And how intelligent the man is.
Right.
But someone has to see that and to know that.
That's right.
I want to read something and then I'll tell us the mental and physical power of the real enemy. The mental power of the real enemy is nothing in comparison with the original man. He only has 6 ounces of brain, while the original man has 7½ ounces of brain, which are original. The enemy has 6 ounces of brain, they are grafted brains. The enemy's physical power is less than 1/3 that of the original man. Now, I want to, in looking at that, we could talk about, what's my sister, what is her name? The gymnast who just now
Simone.
became, I'm sorry?
Simone Killing Biles. Simone Biles.
Simone Biles. So now Simone Biles has won more than anyone else in history. And we just read something, about the physical. We can talk about Michael Jordan. We didn't call him that. Very wise people call Michael Jordan the god of basketball. Although that was not the epitome of his godhood. But that's what he could do and excel well in. When you go up, somebody's there, he would switch over here, he would switch over there, he switched to the other place, and while he's in the air, and then still make a play. When we watch the athletes today and what they're able to do, now, is it true that you have to think it before you can do it? It's not just automatic what the athletes among us do. They have to think it before they do it. When I came up at a time where there was still predominantly whites playing the sports. And when somebody made a move, they said it was smart. I noticed that when we came in and we would make smarter moves, it would be said then that it's athletic.
Right.
See, it changed. It's just like, what is this thing? Critical race theory. So it goes from Black history to critical race theory.
Come on.
And if there is no critical race theory at all, then there's nothing to explain the condition of our children, and they begin to take an even more inferior stance in the education.
Right.
And of course, the minister explained it like this. We come out after 12 years, our head is down. Whites can come out with their heads up because they've had 12 years of what they've accomplished. We come out with our heads down because we have 12 years of having accomplished nothing. How is that affecting us even more so today? And then we want to go into, there are more Black principals who have also been sidelined.
That's right.
Right. And before you answer that, in addition to that, we're going to also delve into the questions along with your charges and demands.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So you want me to go into the Black principles, the other ones?
Well, you can start wherever you want to start.
Okay, yes, sir.
You have a lot to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brother Sultan and Sister Charlene and your listeners, when I was removed on March 31st of this year. And I found out when they removed me, they didn't tell me what I did. Again, we had to sue in order to get that information, or threaten to sue in order to get that information. When I got that information and I saw that everything that they said against me was a lie, then, and I, of course, already had the spirit to fight. On April 11th, I received a call from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This is during Ramadan, April 11th of this year. I received a call from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And of course, I had already been in communication with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I said to the minister, I said, brother minister, my spirit is to fight. And the minister responded, he said, brother, that's the right spirit. He said, brother, are you familiar with those brothers in Tennessee? He said, they have the spirit of Joshua. He's talking about the two brothers that were removed from the State House. He said, they have the spirit of Joshua. And if you know anything about Joshua, you know he's a fighter. He said, they're not like the other Negroes in Tennessee. He said, the man kicked them out of the State House, but one is back and the other one is on his way. My point to you, this is the minister talking, my point to you is that it backfired. He said, brother, this will backfire. So I'm only saying that to say that from the beginning of this, my spirit was always to fight. And when I started to fight, I stood up to fight like any intelligent person would do when they've been lied on. I stood up to fight. And then we found out that there were other Black principals that the same thing happened to them. They were lied on and they were removed from their positions as well. And then as we continued to fight, more information came out. So there was an article written about your brother. I was on the cover of the Sun-Times newspaper. And the article was written by Sarah Karp, who is a journalist for the Chicago Sun-Times. And she also is a journalist for WBEZ. And she writes on education. And in her article, it proved three things that we were already saying. The first thing that we were saying is that Chicago Public Schools discriminates against Black principals. So in Sarah Karp's article, through the Freedom of Information Act, Sarah Karp found out that there were 10 principals removed, and of those 10, 8 of them were Black. So now, listen, brothers and sisters, there were 10 principals removed in 1 year in Chicago, and of those 10, 8 of them were Black. So then when Sarah Karp looked closer, 7 of the 8 Black principals were Black men. Wait a minute. What is the percentage of Black male principals in Chicago public schools? It's only 8%. 8% of the principals in Chicago public schools are Black men, but Black men are 70% of the removals. What this proves is that Chicago public schools is targeting Black leadership. It's not just happening in Chicago, it's happening all over the country. Absolutely. In all of the schools, Black, strong, effective Black leadership is being targeted for removal. So when I stood up to fight, there were other brothers and sisters that the same thing happened to, that they were lied on, that they got trumped up charges put against them, that CPS put paperwork on Black principals. And so then those other Black principals, Dr. Kimberly Gibson from Harriet Tubman and Brother Gerald Morrow from Dunbar High School, they stood up to fight this oppressive system that is targeting Black principals, specifically Black male principals in Chicago public schools. So this is the fight, brothers and sisters, that we're in. This is the fight that we want you to join. There's a website where you can find more information. It's scrolling down at the bottom. It's justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. You can get the background information on what's going on. You can find a little bit about what's going on with the other principals as well. You can also, on that same website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, you can send a letter to Mayor Brandon Johnson. Mayor Johnson is the mayor. I know you may be asking, brother, have you all talked with the mayor? And I'll say this, when Brandon Johnson was running for mayor, he and I had a conversation via Zoom. So one-on-one conversation, just me and him. And I let him know what was happening at Lindblom at the time. So he's definitely aware of what is going on. But these politicians, a lot of time, they need pressure applied to them. So if you go on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, you can click on Brandon Johnson's name. It's right there on the website. And an email will populate and you can send him an email. You don't have to, you can just send him the email. All you have to do is click on his name. The email will generate and you send it straight to him. And that's on the website, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. You can also make a donation on that website. That's the picture right there of the Hamilton. I'm going to jump into this real quick. I'll come back to that. So now if you go back to the picture, Sister Charlene, please, if you can. Right. So now what you see, brothers and sisters, is this is the poster this is the lobby of the Juvenile Detention Center. That is the poster, and those pictures on the side are the cast members that you see that were performing the Hamilton play for the residents of Nancy B. Jefferson. So this was the effort. This is one of the efforts, not the only effort that I put forth while I was at Nancy B. Jefferson. This is just one of the efforts that I put forth to bring the Hamilton play. Now that picture is important because that picture was taken on March 31st of this year. That picture wasn't taken after I brought Hamilton to Nancy B. Jefferson. That picture was taken not March 31st, pardon me, but March of this year. Because, brothers and sisters, I am a brother that is committed to our people. So even though I am not at Nancy B. Jefferson as the assistant principal, I've been back 30 or 40 or more times to do different programs with the residents of Nancy B. Jefferson. So, as I said before, I do a lot of community work. So I built a lot of relationships with brothers and sisters in Chicago, and we do a lot of community work as well as what I do as a principal. So in March of this year, myself, as well as some Chicago celebrities and some other brothers and sisters that I work with in the community, we went to Nancy B. Jefferson to again engage with those residents, which is something that I've been doing for the last 8 years.
That is phenomenal. When I saw that, I was like, whoa, only twice, but that played, you're right. Everything you're saying is so correct. Brothers, what did we get to some of the questions in the chat?
Absolutely.
And then, and as well as comments, but we'll start with the first one. I'll put it here. It is from Sylvia Yancy Muhammad. She works at a middle school in New Jersey. She can see the decline of the educational system. Today was like, I need a different job. She says, you just have those moments.
That's true.
Yeah. Prayers for you, sister. When trying to reach our children, what advice do you have for an educator to get through the daily struggles? Most of the day is spent disciplining. Parents are not effective.
So that's a great. Leave it on the screen for me, please. That's a great question. Sister Sylvia, the first thing that you have to realize, now I'll say this, the first thing you have to realize is that our people have been made savage. They're not savages. They're absolutely not savages, but they've been made savage. So if you don't walk in the door knowing what you are dealing with, you will have absolutely no hope. Working with the public is an extremely difficult position because you get to see the problems of the public up close. So if you're a police officer, like you dealing with the problems of the public up close, right? You're a teacher, you dealing with the problems of the public up close, and it's not pretty. So the first thing you have to do as an educator is you have to set your mind for what you're about to engage with. That's the first thing you have to do before you get to school. If you don't set your mind and you think that the students are just going to respond because you're in front of them, then it's not the student's fault. It's really your fault because you have not set your mind for what you have to deal with. So that's the first thing you have to do as an educator, right? The second thing you have to do as an educator is You have to bring, now again, I told you that they were made savage, right? The reason that I was so successful as a teacher is because I transposed everything that we were taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the minister into the classroom. Did I go in the classroom and say, y'all need to be Muslim? Absolutely not. I never did that, and I didn't have to. I said I transposed everything that we were taught into the classroom. What do you mean, brother, transpose? Well, I knew that I was dealing with a people that had been made savage, right? So if you're dealing with a people that had been made savage, then you have to bring them into an environment that is orderly. If you bring them into an environment that is disorderly, then you are contributing to the chaos that is already in their mind. So now, what does that mean? That means that you have to bring them into a structured environment, and you have to communicate the structure to the student. Do you understand? And whatever structure you communicate to the student, you have to enforce that. I'm gonna give you some examples. So, for example, and of course, sister, I didn't know this like every day. Like I didn't know this the first day. This is from years of being an educator. So, brothers and sisters, I stood at my door every day as a teacher and greeted every student that came in the classroom. Why did I do that? Because I transposed what I learned in the mosque into the classroom. I wasn't searching them at the door, but I was searching them at the door. So I stood at my door the same way when we stand at the mosque. The mosque is showing you, right? It's a pattern of how to do it. People can't just come to the mosque and just walk in how they want to walk in. Absolutely not. There's somebody at the door to check you at the door. And if there's anything wrong, then you getting checked right at the door. And then there's a process you go through, and then you come. You can't sit where you want to sit. You can't say what you want to say. You can't do what you want to do. You're instructed to sit in a certain place, right? So you taking the people who've been made savage, and what are you doing? You're putting them in an orderly environment so they can do what? So they can learn. Certain things we don't allow in the mosque, because if we allow a gun in the mosque, it interferes with the learning process. If we allow the sisters to sit next to the brothers, what does it interfere with? The learning process, because the Messiah is a teacher. And so now, brothers, so Sister Sylvia, what did I do? I stood at my door. I wasn't checking students physically, but I was checking them. I was making sure that they had what they needed for class. But now I didn't just, I communicated this to them. I said, look, this is what you need for class. Once I said it out of my mouth, every single day, was there a day that your feet were hurting and you wanted to sit down at your desk? Yeah, but do you think I sat down at my desk? Absolutely not. Because I understood that I was dealing with a people that had been made savage, right? What did the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad say? He said that Moses slept in a ring of fire. Well, what does that mean? That you got to walk around with some matches? Absolutely not. That means that you need to set a structure in your classroom that is so tight that the children cannot penetrate it. So, because you have to know what you're dealing with. So I stood at my door, Sister Sylvia, and I not in an abrasive way, not in a mean way, but in a respectful way. I checked the students to make sure they had what they needed for the class. Why did I do that? Because and it's a little different now because students have Chromebooks, but if you don't have your materials, then what can I do for you? The only reason you would come in here with no pen, no paper, no book is to create a problem. At least show me that you fake and do something, but you're not going to come in here with nothing, because then it's going to create a problem. Well, Mr. Muhammad, I can just get in there and I can just borrow a pen. No, you can't, because you borrowing a pen is you running around the classroom asking everybody, slapping your friend upside his head. That's your idea of borrowing. Why? Because you've been made a savage. So I understood all of that. So I put structures in place for everything that I knew I was going to deal with. And Sister Sylvia, it didn't come all at one time. I mean, this came from years of trial and error, where I would try one idea and it would be okay, or it wouldn't work, or it would backfire, or it would be great. And then if it was a great idea and it worked and it was effective, then I make sure I use that every year. If it was a bad idea and it didn't work, part of education is experimentation, because there's a science to educating children, and you can't be a scientist if you don't experiment. So part of that is experimentation. And let me say this, Sister Sylvia, listen, as strong as you hear me talking and as confident as you hear me talking, I know for a fact that I can go to any school in America, the worst school, wherever they are, I could go to the worst school in America and turn that school around. I'm confident that I could do that with the power of God. But does that mean I never had a bad day? All of us as educators, we all have a bad day. I had them, and I was a great and am a great educator. But now here's what I promised myself, that I would never have 2 bad days in a row. You're going to have a bad day. The children are going to get on your nerves. We're human beings, right? But I made a commitment to myself that I was not going to have 2 bad days in a row. So if I came to school and I thought I had my lesson plan together and it really wasn't as tight, right, as it should have been, and because it wasn't as tight as it should have been, and the students got out of pocket or whatever, then I came back the next day and I was on 10, because I was like, look, whatever happened yesterday, and sometimes I just have to tell them, look, whatever happened yesterday is not going to happen today. But listen, Sister Sylvia, the thing you have to do is bring your students into a structured environment. Now, let me give you this, because we educators and we just talking. This is just education talk. Now, listen, I just told you that our children were made savage. Now, you can't say, I don't know if you do this, but I'm just saying for teachers in general. If you say, well, okay, guys, the class lasts an hour, but this lesson was only 40 minutes, the last 20 minutes is going to be free time. Sister Sylvia, I don't even know you. I don't know what school you at, and I don't know your children. But I do know what's going to happen if you give children who've been made savage free time. They don't know what to do with free time. So what would you give them free time? What they're going to do with it? It's going to lead to chaos, right? How did I learn this? Because I made the mistake of giving my students free time. And every time I did that, it just led to chaos. So I said, look, that's not going to happen. Every minute, if the class was 50 minutes, guess what? Every minute of the class was occupied educating those. They said, Mr. Muhammad, are we ever going to get free time? I said, what's the last day of school? June 3rd. I said, June 4th, you'll have some free time. Now, Sister Sylvia, I worked summer school, and I taught in one classroom for 5 hours. Not exaggerating. Did you give them free time in summer school? Absolutely not. I'll say every minute. It was a little looser, but it wasn't as loose as most people would be. Let me show you this, sister, and I'm done with this. I know this is a longer answer than maybe you had anticipated. When I was working at Chicago Vocational, and I worked summer school, and the students were in there for 5 hours, literally. One summer, I had a white, she wasn't an assistant, but she was like a student teacher. Young white girl. She's about this big. I'm not exaggerating. She's about this big. And I had to take 2 days off. But my routines were so strong. And as a middle school teacher, you got to have strong routines. My routines were so strong. I pulled the white girl to the side. I said, look here. Now, we talking about Chicago Vocational High School, summer school. And in summer school, you got students from all over the city in one classroom, and you in there for 5 hours. I pulled the little white girl over to the side. I said, look here. All you have to do is follow the routines that I've already put in place, and you will not have a single problem. And you know what she did? She followed the routines that I put in place, and she did not have a single problem. So, Sister Sylvia, the work that we do is difficult because we work with the public. This is why you have to pray, of course, and you have to set your mind for the endeavor that you're about to engage in, which is one of the greatest endeavors that you can engage in, which is the education of our children. And if you have a bad day, just pray to Allah and come back the next day and don't have 2 bad days in a row. Thank you for your question.
Okay,
Well,
we'll put the
so
next one up.
more go. I don't see them, but go ahead.
Oh, here's one right here.
Okay.
Arvin's. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Arvin's. My bad, my bad.
So it says,
Question.
how do we? Shall I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So it says, how do we make sure to fully protect the minds of our children from these satanic minds, knowing how strong the pull of this wicked world is on them?
Brother Arvance, that is a great question. And I saw your comment earlier. I remember when I was your processing teacher. You know, I did teach processing for over 20 years in Chicago. And I remember when you were in that class, absolutely. Many of the greats were in those classes. So, brother, the question is, how can you fully protect the minds of our children? Brother Arvance, we live in Satan's world, so you can't fully protect the minds of your children because we live in Satan's world. If you riding down the street and you turn on the radio because you like the music, right? Before that, you listening to the radio on the way to school. They haven't gotten to school yet, and you've already exposed your children to the mind of Satan on the radio. Or you had a hard day at work and you give the son or daughter an iPad, right? And they watching YouTube videos or television. You see, so we can't fully protect, but we can put things in place to protect the minds of our children. So one thing, Brother Arvance, that I would say, and I'm saying this as a parent, I'm saying this as your brother, I'm saying this as a brother who has children who are now adults. And, you know, we are like every parent on here, you know, you made a bunch of mistakes. I'm raising my hand because we all did, right? We all made mistakes in trying to figure it out. And there's no one thing, there's no magic bullet, right? That will say, well, you know, you do this and you'll have Muslim children. There's no one thing. It's a combination of things. Or your children won't be attracted by the world. You could do everything, quote unquote, right. The world is attractive, right? It was made to be attractive because opposites attract. That is the nature of things, right? But now what I will say is that as parents, we do have the job to protect our children's mind. And I would say one of the greatest decisions that my wife and I made in raising our children is that we didn't watch television and we didn't allow our children to watch television. And I know this is a big one, brothers and sisters, because it's just so convenient to sit down in front of TV. But this is one of the things that we committed to. And a lot of these things that our children are into come from television. So I'm not going to say you have to go to that extreme. I'm not going to say that. But I will say what Master Father Muhammad said to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that was that one day the Muslims would be entertaining the devil in their living room. And we know that when he said that, he was referring to the invention of television, which is exactly that. So I would say, Brother Arvance, is definitely limit the television watching. You know, Brother Arvance, I love rap music, right? That's the only music I listen to. I love rap music. But as a parent, whenever I would have my children in the car, the only thing, and my son, he's an adult now, he can tell you, the only thing they heard me listening to in the car when they were children, they were small, was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As much as I love rap music, I just had to have discipline. So that was me trying to protect my children's mind from the satanic mind, right? Limiting their television watching, right? Limiting, because now I love the music, right? But I know the music has a lot of negativity, and I don't want my children to have access to that or listen to that, right? So I had to discipline myself not to listen to that music while they were in the car, right? I would always put on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And then, so Brother Arvance and all parents, the public schools and Satan does not get the first crack at your child. They do not. The parents have the first crack or access to the minds of their children, we have to take advantage of the fact that we have that first access before we turn them over to somebody else. We have to take advantage of that. So I would say limit the television. Definitely, you know, you have to be disciplined with the music while they're in the car. And then when you get ready to send them to school, you have to make the choice. I'm not sending my children. Like, I work in public school, so I know what happens that most parents don't know the ins and outs of. So even before, I'm not sending my children to public school, but I work in public schools and I know how they put the needle in the brain. So I wouldn't send my child to a public school. If you ask me as your brother, if you would send them, I would not send my children. I would not advise you to send your children, because the very idea that you're trying to cultivate in them, the public school system is trying to destroy that, right? So you have the option of Muhammad University. You have the option of homeschooling. There are other options. There are other choices that we have to make. But at the end of the day, the choice is up to the parents. And it's not as cut and dry. You know, when we were young, Brother Arvince, when we were in our 20s, we thought it was cut and dry, and it's not, right? It's not as cut and dry. Everybody can't send their children to Muhammad University or whatever, you know, for whatever reason. So you have to do whatever you can. But the greatest thing that you have as a parent, your children love you and they trust you because you're their parent. So use that to your advantage. And I'm gonna end with this. You've seen the documentary that about Venus and Serena Williams, right? When their father, he wouldn't allow the interviewers to talk to them a certain type of way because the interviewer would try to sow doubt into them. What he wanted to do, if you saw the movie, what Richard Williams wanted to do was he wanted to protect the minds of his daughters. I watched the trailer of the documentary, not the movie, the documentary. And and Richard Williams would not, if you watched the movie or read the book or watched the documentary, he would not allow his daughters to practice. He practiced with them in Compton. He wouldn't allow them to go to any other practice. Why? Because he did not want anybody to destroy the mind that he was making in his daughters. And I watched the documentary trailer, and little Serena was saying that she was going to be a champion, and the man was like, "You believe that, don't you?" And then the commentator was like, "Yeah, it's like she's been brainwashed," and that's what we need to do with our children. Richard Williams brainwashed his children to believe that they were going to grow up and be world champions. That's exactly what he did. And what did they grow up to be? They grew up to be world champions.
And on that same point,
you have the trust, you have the love, and you have the access to the minds of your children. Use it and brainwash your children to be gods the same way Richard Williams brainwashed his daughters to be the greatest tennis players of all time.
And on that same point and on that same sport, I don't know how many of us watched the New York Coco Gauff. And she won, of course, in New York, the U.S. Open. But many of us may not have seen how she was handled after that. The woman she defeated, the whatever he is who was giving away the awards, he started talking about her, the one who was defeated. Then he says to her before the world, "Oh, and don't worry, you will still be number one tomorrow." Sure. Then, see that mind thing.
Come on.
Then he said, "Oh, well, you played well this time. You played well." See, that's that kind of thing, brother, that you're talking about.
That's right.
That was opposed with, which was a needle that they put.
That's right.
Or tried to put in her head.
Right. Absolutely.
Right before the world.
That's right. That's right.
Where they would not recognize her great defeat.
That's right.
19 years old, and the only two to have ever done it were two young black women.
That's right.
Defeating older women.
Come on.
So the point that you make, my dear brother, is so great. And I wanted to pull that up because, and you can see a lot of things regarding the golf championship when she played.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't see, they'll show when she went up to see her mother and father and they hugged and all of that. And they'll show how what the reactions were, but they do not repeat what that man did. I can't find that anywhere, what he did. And we need to look for it, and if somebody can find it, post how they handled her. And then we see what happens in public school, in life itself,
and
as
so,
the people try to survive.
That's right. And Brother Sultan, let me say this. See, you're a wise man, so you can see that, right? As a 19-year-old young woman, she probably can see that as well. But now, if your child is 6 or 7,
that's right.
That's why you have to be there, because you're talking about a 6, 7, 8, 9. They don't have the ability to see the ill intent of people who come at them that way to destroy their confidence. They don't have that ability. That's why they need you as parents to protect them from people that have that kind of mindset. So this is why, brothers and sisters, your children turn on school, but they can't, their children can't articulate what is happening to them. So it comes out, we talked about in the beginning, cause and effect. You see the effect. I hate school. I don't want to go to school. All I want to do is sit at home and play video. I hate school. What happened? You used to love. You asked the question. You used to love school. And you asking a 8-year-old what happened. He can't articulate it. She can't articulate it. They can't verbalize what happened. I'm telling you what's happening. They are putting a needle in the brain of your black baby, and it comes out as I hate school because they know how school makes them feel. I came with all this confidence, like I was the greatest, and you are the greatest. They are the greatest because God lives in them. But then this teacher just tried to destroy my confidence or destroy I don't want to be here no more. I'm telling you what's happening. So let's go to the next question. And Sister Sylvia, I saw your question. In the public school system, it's very difficult to get parents to participate. And again, like Sister Sylvia, it's like you're in a hard job as a teacher, but you have to understand, just like the child has been destroyed, guess what? The parent has been destroyed too. So if you have these expectations that are unrealistic, the parents should do this, right? But you're talking about a people who have been destroyed by the enemy. Now, this is a difficult job because I got to raise the child.
That's right.
As well as the parent.
That's
I got to put both of them on my shoulders and take them to the finish line. Well, the Holy Quran says, Sister Sylvia, that Allah never puts on a person a responsibility or a duty that they can't bear. So if you're there as the teacher, then Allah knows that you can handle that duty or that responsibility to lift the parent as well as the student and get them to the finish line, and it's only going to make you a greater servant of our people.
Let me add to that too, what I've seen just in terms of journalism, but also as a homeschooling parent until we got Muhammad University of Islam West here. Some parents are really discouraged. They face a lot of opposition when they do go. Some Black parents are discouraged. They face opposition. They're called combative. They're said that they're uncooperative, that they're nosy, that they're, what was one word I heard? Hoverboards over their children. But other parents don't get that as well. So just in terms of a balance, but thank you for speaking on what the parents are suffering.
And I'll say this, and then we can go to the next question. Sister Sylvia and our educators, you have to partner with those parents, because the thing that Black parents don't know how to advocate for their children. They don't know what to advocate for. So a lot of times the white school officials get over on the Black parents because the Black parents don't know, and they don't have a person there that is an advocate for them that is going to tell them the truth. I'm looking at Brother Lamont's question, who is also an educator. And he's talking about how they put Black children or he's asking about how Black children or parents are tricked to put their children into special education. Now, there are some children that need special education services. That is a fact. But if you look at the numbers of children that now require special education services, it has skyrocketed over the years. So you have these white teachers who come to these schools with Black children, Black boys, who they can't control, and they have no structure in the classroom. They have no discipline. They're afraid of these boys, right? And because the boy does not want to submit to an unorganized white teacher with no lesson plan and no discipline and no structure, now the teacher is recommending that the boy get special education services so they can be drugged, so they can just sit down in the classroom. But this same child that you say can't do anything and can't sit down, you give my iPad and they ain't making noise for 2 hours. What are we talking about? It's that the teacher is not able to capture the mind of the student to give them the education that they deserve. So rather than learn best practice to access the mind of the child, they want to give the child drugs and refer them to special education. So now, if there's no Black educator there, Sister Sylvia, there's no Black educator there to advocate for this Black parent, then what's going to happen to these Black children? They're going to be warehoused and they're going to be railroaded. The minister said this. I don't remember the lecture, but many of you may have heard him say it. He said that that they've created 2 paths for Black youth. One path is really 3: the military, the cemetery, right? Or the penitentiary. These are the paths that have been laid out for Black youth. How does that happen? It starts with the miseducation of our children in the public school systems. So this is what we have to fight against. It's not something that is happening only in Chicago. It's happening all over the country. You hear people talk about the school to prison pipeline, right? And the school to prison pipeline is real, but you have Black educators that are in the schools destroying the prison pipeline. Destroying the. So now you would think in a city like Chicago, with all of the violence and crime and everything that is going on in Chicago with our young people, that educators like myself and Gerald Morrow and Kimberly Gibson, that we would be celebrated by the city. But rather than being celebrated, they targeted us so that we would be removed. Why? Because you had educators that were in the school system destroying the school to prison pipeline. Brothers and sisters, when I was at Nancy B. Jefferson, I'm talking about the jail school, I had the brothers in there talking about how they wanted to graduate. We raised the graduation rate in the jail school. We extended the class period from 50 minutes to 75 minutes so that the residents could earn credits faster, and by earning credits faster, could graduate faster. Now, you're talking about students that were behind when they got there. We're talking about students, brothers and sisters, who are involved in criminal activity who get locked up. And when I walk through the facility, they're talking to me about how they're looking forward to graduating. One day, brothers and sisters, I walked in a classroom, and when I walked in, all of the brothers and sisters in there were talking about how they're looking forward to graduation. And there was a brother sitting right by the door who was new. He was sitting by the door because he didn't want to be engaged in the classroom. The reason that Black boys go to the back of the class is because they don't want to be engaged. So, Sister Sylvia, what you got to do with your Black boys, I don't even know your boys. I don't even know your school. You got to move them from the back of the classroom to the front. They go to the back because they don't want to be engaged. So you got to get them from the back. This is what I did, and brought them to the front. So now I'm in this class. I walk in, brother sitting next to the door. And this brother had never been to high school. He's 17 years old. And the last time he had been to school was 8th grade. This is the students that we get at Nancy B. Jefferson. So now He hears all the other brothers talking about, man, I'm looking forward to graduating and we gonna get these credits because this is the spirit that we created in the jail school. So the little brother pulls me to the side and says, Mr. Muhammad, do you think I'll be able to graduate? Now, I couldn't lie to the brother. He ain't never been to high school a day in his life. I said, brother, you're not going to graduate with them. But if you do what you're supposed to do, then you will graduate. Now, brothers and sisters, these are the miracles that Allah blessed me to create in Chicago, blessed me to perform, pardon me, in Chicago public schools with the most at-risk students, destroying the school-to-prison pipeline. I know we don't have a lot of time and we probably got more questions, so let's go to the questions, brothers and sisters. We're going to do lightning round.
I would like to say just one thing here. And Sister Charlene, we're able to bring him back because we could probably bring him back with Brother Troy, Brother Saad, and the great people that have been backing him, Attorney Crump, and others, Father Flager, those who have been really backing him in this. And there is, from the 28th, if there is a way that we can get this meeting from the 28th out to everybody, we can get it out to all over the country.
Yes.
And I think because this is, again, a national, and if people look into it in their cities, in their towns, they have the same problem.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
can
sir.
do something about it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll do that. Certainly will do my part. I'll show the flyer again, and there's a question. We have one more question I think we should take, or we could take, and then start going into closing remarks so that we're out on time.
Praise be to Allah.
Okay, here it is. So, from Brother Abdul's experience, it seems very plausible. Dozens of white teachers have funds from CPS ticket sales in their personal bank accounts with no risk of auditing. Sorry, that wasn't the question, but here is one. Samuel Clark, thank you for your comment, brother. I find in majority Black-led white supremacy, I guess this is Black-led schools, white supremacy, they make policies that make it hard to educate, discipline, and even give minimum scores. They are passed on because they are more interested in kissing moral practices for higher grades. Maybe that's trading, what have you. But the question is, do you see a pattern as such in our school districts?
So I'll say this, and I'm saying what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said to me on June 19th, to your point, my brother. On June 19th, I had a meeting with the Honorable Minister. I was blessed to meet with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan regarding, this trial that I'm going through right now. And one of the things that he said is that in the Caribbean, you have Black educators that are wearing white wigs. In the Caribbean, they wear the European wigs, right? He said the Black educators are wearing white wigs. He said, brother, they are tools of white supremacy. So, brother, to your point, you have Black educators that are wearing white wigs, meaning they think just like white folks. And there are some of our educators, not all of them, but there are some of them that are like that. And they want to please the powers that be. All of our educators are not like that, but you do have some that are like that. And I'll say this, brothers and sisters, in my 25 years in Chicago public schools, I've never violated the principles or went along, did the go along to get along, because I'm taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And as his student, of course, there's certain things that I will not do. So those so-called Black educators, brother, need to be re-educated. They need to be re-educated and retrained so they can be of service to Black children. And they can work to lift Black children instead of supporting policies that hurt Black children. So thank you for your question, my brother. And to Brother Aaron's point, and I'll just say this, I know we're running out of time, but the one of the things, not only was I targeted by Chicago public schools because I'm a Muslim, because I'm a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, this was their concern. But the reason that the white teachers were so adamant to work with Chicago public schools to have me removed is because when I got to Limballoon, there were 3 teachers at the school that had Black folks' money in their personal bank accounts. And when I found out, I did what any person would do. I held those teachers accountable. Now, some people will say, well, you can't hold white people accountable. And maybe that's true, but I'm not going to, on my watch, on my post, I'm not going to allow anybody to violate any policy, any rule that we know is wrong. When I found out that the athletic director, Christina Davis, was not turning in money from football games and was putting that money in her bank account, I got the actual facts. From the stadium director in Chicago Public Schools. I got the actual facts. They have a stadium report, and in that stadium report, it shows you how many tickets were sold and how much money was collected. And I, follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I try to follow him in everything that we do. And one of the things that we're taught, see, as Muslims, we don't go around gossiping and talking about people behind their back. We talk to them to their face. Like, you're not God. Like, who are you? So we worship no God but Allah. So I didn't go around telling people, oh, she's stealing money, she's doing this. No, I went directly to her. I only engaged with the people that were involved in the situation. So the clerk and the athletic director, the clerk is supposed to collect the money and make the report and give me the report. The athletic director is supposed to turn the money into the clerk so I can get the report. When that wasn't being done, I went to them directly. After they lied the first time, I said, well, okay, let me get the actual facts before I bring them in. Once I got the actual facts, I brought them both in my office and sat them down. And I said, where is the money from the previous football games? And they both looked me in my face and said, there is no money. I pulled out the stadium report. I gave each one of them a copy, and I repeated my question. I said, where is the money from the football game? The Black clerk knew she was busted. She didn't say anything. The white athletic director, Christina Davis, she said, oh, that's my money. I said, that's your money? She said, yeah, I brought change. So that's my money. I said, Miss Davis, it doesn't work like that. You're supposed to turn the money from the tickets into the school. She said, no, that's my money because I brought change. I said, Miss Davis, if you sold one ticket for $5, the $5 needs to be turned into the school. She left the office saying that was her money. She emailed me on Saturday because she knew that she didn't have a out. She emailed me Saturday and said, oh, I realized the error of my mistake. I'll have the money for you on Monday. So, brothers and sisters, I held white teachers accountable for what they were not doing for Black children. She was not the only one. I'll say this. There were 2 other teachers that had thousands of dollars of Black folks' money, thousands, not hundreds, thousands, in their bank account. I did them the same way. I brought them in. I didn't spread their business around the school. I went directly to them as we're taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I told them that you need to get that money out of your bank account and turn it into the school. So, brothers and sisters, in everything that we do, we have to follow the example. That's all I'm trying to say. We have to follow the example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And, in this fight that we want you to join, go on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. We want you to join this fight. As you have heard, as you may know, that because I was holding people accountable, as well as I was a Muslim, right? As well as I was the first Black principal since the school reopened. These were all reasons that the seven white teachers and the Black clerk came against me and told over 83 lies to the Chicago Public Schools Law Department and had me removed. So we want you to join this fight. Go on justiceforabdulmuhammad.com, sign the petition, share the petition. You can get background information. There's videos, some background videos. You can get all of this information. We want you to put it out on social media. We want you to share with the public. The video that we did where I go through my history in Chicago Public Schools and the work that Allah has blessed me to do. Some of that is in this video that we want you to share with the public, because we have to put the information out to the public so the public can join the greatest fight. Our people can join the greatest fight that we can be a part of. And the greatest fight is the fight for the minds of our children. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. And Sister Sylvia, sister, keep fighting, keep educating our children. It's a struggle, but it's a beautiful struggle at the same time.
That's right. That's right. Brother Abdul, thank you so much. Brother Sultan, a closing remark.
Thank you.
I'm really so happy that Brother Abdul was able to be here
Mhm.
and to give us this. There's so much more. If you will take a look, go at that September 28th event, which Brother Saad Ali is there in that, and Brother Troy. How do you say his last name?
LaRaviere.
I'm sorry?
LaRaviere. Troy LaRaviere.
LaRaviere.
Yes, sir.
Troy LaRaviere, who was just astounding in what he's doing. They both are, of course, understand that Brother Saad Ali is taking. I'm sending this out all over the country to
Yes, sir.
all the people that I know, all the friends that I know.
Yes, sir. Praise
And
God.
we should all who hear this, and I see it continues to go across the screen, and you see it on the, you can scan. But this is our fight for our children.
That's right.
We
That's
should get
right.
it out all over the country, and we will make happen what needs to happen.
That's right. And I'll just say this real quick, Brother Sultan, that we have filed a lawsuit that Brother Saad is the chief attorney. You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called him God's attorney. Well, God's attorney is on the case, right? And we
Yes,
have
sir.
filed a lawsuit against Chicago Public Schools. So we're fighting that. But like you said, we want this information to get out to the public, to as many people as we possibly can. Because the reason that I was targeted, even though they're targeting Black principals, but the reason that I was targeted specifically, brothers and sisters, is because I'm with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have emails, we have Facebook group chats, all of this kind of foolishness talking about my religion and how I shouldn't be the principal because I'm a Muslim. It's just, that's the level of insanity that we're dealing with here in Chicago. So this is a fight against us as Muslims, and we're asking you all to join this fight.
Join the fight. That's right. That's ridiculous. He's getting all of these results, but it's faith-based and it's about the minister. So thank you all for tuning in, Brother Abdul. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my
Greetings to
sister.
your family. Greetings to your
I sure
family,
will.
Brother Sultan. That's our show for today. I'll take you all out of the studio, run some of the comments, run the music, and then we're going out, okay? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Everyone, don't leave. Here's a flyer again. Why isn't it showing? I don't know what I did here. There it is. You can get everything there, justiceforabdulmuhammad.com. And as the theme music plays, we just want to run some of the comments and for him. And this is our fight. So the presentation, please, please, please spread the word. There's a code there. The link is in the chat. Spread the word. The presentation that the three brothers did is phenomenal, and it gives you the rich history of Brother Abdul, 25 years, and it's undeniable. So I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad on behalf of the panel saying if it's impacting our people or can uplift us as a community, let's talk about it. Peace.